Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock.
I fucked up. I brought my water bottle down here because I always like to have some liquid to drink, especially when it's my turn to do a topic.
Yeah.
What I failed to do is fill up the water bottle before I came down.
I'm planning ahead, and by plan ahead, I mean I bought a water bottle at lunch and then didn't touch it all day. Yeah. So it's here and ready to go.
It's amazing.
It was made for this moment.
It's amazing how often I do that at work. I'll be like, I need more water, and I'm usually okay about drinking a decent amount of water. You know, maybe not the exact amount that they say, oh, you need to drink this much, but
who can?
It's fucking hard. If I'm working out and trying to really focus on my health, 120 ounces is kind of that sweet spot. It really could be a little more. That's a lot of fucking water.
My
today.
Fucking doctor does not understand that when I'm just sitting half naked playing Sonic the Hedgehog at the age of 32, I don't get that dehydrated.
Right. That's the thing is I think those numbers are still based on physical labor, and it's I sit on my ass for 90% of the day.
Yeah, this is how sad my lunch is, and I'm such a hypocrite where I just bitch about companies and capitalism and shit, but there's 15 flavors of Mountain Dew out there now, and at lunch I treat myself by trying a new one. So today I tried Baja Caribbean Splash.
God damn, this makes you sound like Phyllis from The Office or something. That's her one joy in life. It's
Yeah.
trying a new Mountain Dew every day.
And you know what?
But that's what office work turns us into. I mean, that's exactly...
And you know what? It was fucking delicious, but I do this haggling with myself where it's okay, I'm going to drink the Mountain Dew, but that's my treat. And you drink water the rest of the day. And then I just end up drinking the Mountain Dew and not drinking the water.
Yeah, because you're not thirsty at this point.
Yeah,
you just
I had a whole Mountain Dew.
Right, I do that in the mornings with coffee. I always fill up my water bottle and get a cup. And I'm not one of these people gets a ridiculous 80-ounce cup of coffee. I mean, it's a regular fucking mug of coffee, and I don't even fill it all the way up. But I always tell myself it's okay, it's basically one sip of coffee, then one sip of water. And I don't. I drink the coffee over the course of 3 hours, and then don't drink anything else the rest of the time I'm at work. And then usually right about 5 when I'm getting ready to leave, I look over and see the full water bottle and go, oh, well, yeah, I was supposed to drink that. Fuck. But anyway, this is not the hydration podcast because fuck it. We're not...
We recommend shit sometimes. Yeah. We're just as good as
We've grown because we used to recommend binge drinking and drugs all the time, and now we're drink your water.
No, I'm recommending Mountain Dew, Caribbean Splash.
Yeah. You know, I was kind of laughing when you said that's your truth, but then I remembered I fucking tweeted about it Friday, my one thing, because I try most days all I drink is either water or coffee, and I drink my coffee black. If I put creamer in it, it's like you, I consider that a treat, and then I'll be extra good. So last Friday I was I'm going to get a fucking energy drink, and I still get the no sugar, the quote unquote healthy energy. They're not healthy, but they're not.
They're especially not healthy anymore now that even more shit's come out about those artificial sweeteners, and they're links to cancer and shit. So that's why I stopped with the zero sugar ones. But those were my jam. Well,
the ones that I drink aren't, because they're not even the big label oh no sugar, and they use fake sugar. They just don't use these artificial sweeteners. There's just not sweeteners in them. So they're not even good ones. If a normal person drank them, they'd be eh. But for me, who drinks mostly water and coffee, it's this will be my treat. And then I left it at home and was devastated. It's the one thing to make Friday special.
I mean, I had to as much caffeine as in a Mountain Dew. It was nothing compared to my caffeine intake before. And so far the last month I've been pretty strict with myself to not drink any more energy drinks, but fuck, I miss them. I'm still debating if they're worth dying over.
Well, you know what you could switch to? It's extra healthy now. It's not an energy drink, but they've got the alcoholic Mountain Dews.
Yeah, I could probably squeeze that in at work, right?
Or if you want to be healthy, they've got alcoholic Sunny Delight.
Well, I mean, we've always had that. You got Sunny Delight, you got vodka, you got alcoholic Sunny Delight.
Well, I feel from what I remember, I haven't had a Sunny Delight since I was like 12.
Yeah.
But
and I don't remember it.
The only thing I remember is if you leave it out for like an hour or two, it probably became alcoholic on its own. Like it just fermented that much.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
If it's out for 3 minutes,
So
you and your little friends were getting hammered.
that's why kids loved it. And what was that Yoo-hoo shit? Did you ever drink that?
Yoo-hoo is delicious.
Yeah, but it's weird. It's like what if we take chocolate milk and then pour carbonated water into it?
Yeah,
and it's like, hey, it works.
Good call. Can we add vodka?
I think that'd be a Kahlua situation, wouldn't it?
I don't care.
Yeah,
I'll be dead by the end.
I used to say that all the time, and I've switched for health reasons, but it's like I don't drink a lot of that like pop and stuff just on its own. But before, it's like if I was having like a Coke, it was because there was also booze in it. It's like, oh, that stuff's so bad for you unless I make it worse. And then now it makes me fat and kills my liver. But I got away from that. I really don't drink much anymore. I went like a month and a half without a drop.
Yeah.
But when I do, it's just straight booze now. Gets the job done better.
I went out to eat the other night and had like my first like cocktail in months, and it was like, I forget what they called it. It was some fucking Huckleberry Mule shit.
Yeah,
that's the next shirt, by the way. Huckleberry Mule shit.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff they like give back to you in like a weird like brass tin thing, or
yeah.
And I was like, this is not what I was expecting when I ordered this. And then I took a sip of it, and I was like, this is the most alcoholic beverage I've ever had in my life. And like
but probably delicious though.
It was delicious. Like the strongest fucking drink. They did not hold back at all, to the point where I was like slurring halfway through my sandwich.
Well, that's the neat side effect of quitting drinking is it doesn't take long, at least it didn't for me, for my tolerance to just go. Yeah. Like, and the weird thing is what hits me more, and it's probably because in the last couple of years I've been more of a like a bourbon, whiskey, whatever liquor guy than beer. But like if I get a tall beer at a restaurant, I feel like I'm walking, crooked when I go back to my car.
So that's the thing, kids. Like, we're not encouraging binge drinking. We're encouraging finding that unhealthy balance where you kind of overdo it for a bit, wean off, and then go right back to that tit.
Well, I mean, the cost-effective thing would be to just have like one or two cocktails, in a sitting.
Well, I mean, if we're
once every 4 months.
I mean, if we're gonna talk cost-effective, heroin's the cheapest drug there is.
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying, if we want to be thrifty here, we could party right for as low as like $20 to OD.
Well, that's if you're out there and you're curious, try it out and let us know how it goes.
Yeah. Write to us on Twitter, which I'm barely checking now.
I don't know. That fucked everything up because it's like Twitter blew up. And then it's like, Blue Sky's okay, it'll serve. But then everybody, like, overnight... Yeah, well, before even the controversy, like, last night, apparently, whenever that hit, because I don't check that often either.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, my friends are here, and it's a cool hangout place. And then, like, overnight, I think it felt like they all DM'd each other, like, let's leave Steve here and go, because there's, like, nobody hardly using it.
Yeah, it's dead. Yeah,
which isn't a surprise. But now, like, nobody's using Twitter either, and I think... Threads really hasn't taken off. I mean, it's got a lot of users, but it's not like everybody ended up there.
It can't take off the way it's structured.
Right.
To listen to the Non-Essential Podcast where we talk about social media, but it's interesting. I'm kind of like, fuck, do I have to do the walk of shame back to Twitter? Like, does Elon win by default? But now that seems dead.
Well... Yeah, I mean, I've noticed with Blue Sky, and I think it's part of the thing that I kind of liked about it too, though, is that I follow way fewer people, but they're all people that I interact with regularly. Now, some I know better than others. Like, some are still people that, like, I couldn't tell you their actual in real life name. Yeah. But But that also tends to be people that are kind of in my area. So there's like a 3 or 4 hour window of the day that Blue Sky gets pretty active, and then
I'll be honest. I've been rewatching the first season of True Detective, and I thought of a really funny joke, and I went into Photoshop and I made that joke a reality, and I posted it on Twitter and on Blue Sky. 2 people liked it on Twitter. Nobody liked it on Blue Sky.
No, on Blue Sky.
And that was my break it where I'm like, you know what? Fuck social media entirely. Yeah. I will just use it to tell you the episodes are ready.
Yeah.
Episodes like the one you're listening to now, dear viewer.
Well, theoretically, you're listening to. Hopefully, we still got you on the line here. We're getting our rambling extra rambly today, but
on the show, once we shut the fuck up and get to what we do here, we tell each other stories. They're about anything, everything, nothing usually. Mm-hmm. And now it's Steve's turn. I did the thing last week. I don't have to do shit now.
Yeah, isn't that the best?
It's so nice. I'm so glad we do it this way. Because the every other week thing it's glorious.
Oh man, my work. I always did my notes at work, and it worked out well for the past. But we're getting to the point there where I can't do that. So it was interesting today. I didn't have anything. Well, I had a topic I wanted to do. I didn't have anything put together until maybe an hour ago, but I got it. And it's kind of how this one. It's a similar topic to one that you did like 2 or 3 weeks. Well, not your last topic, but the topic before that. So if it feels like I'm just like, oh, you did that, pirates. It's about a pirate.
Okay.
But before you get feeling good, like Steve's copying me, he likes my idea. This inspiration came from a TV show, an episode I watched, and then I was like, Ben just did a pirate, but fuck it, I'm going to do one too. I just want to make sure you don't feel good.
I made that show.
Oh well.
So.
It's one of my favorites, so kudos to you. Now, you have probably heard of this pirate. I didn't pick an obscure one, but oddly, he's not the most famous pirate. He's not unheard of, but he's not like a household name either. So unless you're like into pirates, you probably haven't heard of him. Henry Avery was probably born in or near or underneath Plymouth, Devon, in England, around the middle of the 17th century.
We're above in the clouds.
Above, yeah. It's one of those, like, they're like, we're not sure, but it was probably ish here. I've seen the year 1653 just bandied about all willy-nilly. But like most people who are notable for bad stuff, there's not a lot of concrete information about his early life because he wasn't notable as a kid. He didn't come from a notable family.
He wasn't like a little pirate baby.
And shockingly, he didn't like write a memoir after the fact detailing this stuff for people. So they don't know. They know he was born in that area around that time.
There's a pirate show on, I think it was on Stars, called Black Sails, which I really liked. But
gay pirates.
But yeah,
in multiple ways, but anyway, yeah.
But at the end of it, the main guy is like, it's kind of the end of the pirate revolution, and he's like, he's like bemoaning like the fact that everything he's done will be for nothing. He's like, our stories will be twisted by their narratives, and I'm just like, write a fucking book, dummy. Like, you could. You could have wrote this down a long time ago. Instead, you tried to launch like 3 wars.
In fairness, and I don't know this character. I'm aware of the show, but I haven't watched it. Most pirates in real life were pretty well illiterate. they were not necessarily the most educated people.
I get it with the other ones. This guy was like a former fucking British soldier, like nobleman or something. He could have fucking wrote that book.
Although, yeah, that's true. There were a lot of actual pirates, famous pirates, that did come from like nobility too.
Yeah.
So there were some. Anyway, the town of Plymouth is and was and always will be a coastal town, at least until climate change wipes it out, like most coastal towns. So it's not surprising that Henry would pursue a career at sea. Most accounts say that he got his start aboard ships at an early age. I think like 11 or 12, though, was the normal age for kids, like to kind of start getting out to sea back then.
Yeah.
I guess it was normal back then, or also normal in present-day Wisconsin, thanks to Republicans. So, I don't know. Ohio and Florida, a lot of states are headed that way. Like, you know what? Maybe child labor was good.
You know what I really loved? The 1600s.
These fucking adults are getting hard to take advantage of. They're wising up. Let's make kids our next. Yeah. Which is 100% the motive there. Anyway, Henry was good at what he did, which was fantastic because at sea, if you're bad at your job, you generally didn't survive to come back home. It's a pretty demanding life that doesn't have a ton of margin of error. It's widely believed that he eventually joined the Royal Navy before changing course and pursuing a career in the budding slave trade. So that's fantastic. But that meant when he quit the slave trade and joined a privateering vessel, it made him one of the few sailors to become more ethical by entering into piracy.
That's a very good point.
It's like, you know what?
Yeah, wow.
I'm having second thoughts about this. Let's just kill and steal.
Look at the conscience on Avery, huh?
And in fairness, he didn't captain. He was working on a slave ship, but he didn't necessarily say he was like, I want to be a slaver.
I need to find an honest trade. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. His service aboard the privateering ship, Charles II, began in 1694. For what it's worth, this is the first ship that the nerdy historians can actually prove Avery served aboard. Before that, it's kind of all the hearsay, and, these people get their legends and say, oh, yeah, he did this and he did that. And they're pretty sure he was in the Navy. They're pretty sure he served, slavery, but they don't have specifics. The Charles II, they know for a fact he was part of that crew. The ship and that crew were funded by the Spanish, who at the time were allied with the English, which is what, like I said, Avery was. They were in a naval war with the French. It was a very fun time. Therefore, the Charles II's crew spent their time at sea targeting French merchant vessels and absconding with their treasures legally. So if you're not familiar, I think most people are, and we've talked about it before, privateering was piracy, but it was like almost legal piracy. Well, it was legal for the country telling you to do it. It was basically like a form of warfare. So, like, in this particular case, it was legal to England and Spain for them to loot these French ships. France sure was not happy about it, but it went both ways. There was French privateers, too. So it was commissioned piracy is what privateering is. The ship was well suited for these pursuits. It sported 48 cannons and was also one of the faster ships at sea. Which is what you want. A lot of firepower and speed. They were pretty successful at this endeavor, but the captain of the Charles II eventually lost favor with the crew after having the ship docked in a Spanish port of La Coruña for months without actually paying the crew. So I don't know what the specific deal was there. They were... We see a lot of mirrors to today's world in the old world where it's like, oh, this piracy crew was very successful and stole a bunch of shit for Spain and made it back to Spain. But then the people didn't get paid. And the captain just, it sounds like, spent his nights getting drunk and partying.
Yeah.
Shockingly, the crew did not like that. So one night, while the captain was getting drunk, as you do in Spanish port, Avery rallied enough crew to mutiny.
That would piss me off, though. Like, that happened kind of in the story I told a couple weeks ago. Because it was kind of par for the course mutiny shit. But it's like, imagine being that captain and you think everybody's having a good time like you are. And then they all show up to put a fucking scimitar in your ass.
Yeah, or they at least think like, oh, they might be mad, but we're at sea, this is the life, and I'm the absolute, I'm the ruler of the ship anyway. What can they do about it? Turns out, you can do a lot about it when you outnumber one person.
And there's a lot of people and a lot more water.
All right. So Avery was actually only the second mate. A lot of times, because it sounded like there wasn't a ton of support for the captain. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like he was just like this band of like raider, mad people that are like, we're taking the ship. It sounds like pretty much the whole ship was like, fuck this captain. Although not the whole ship. We'll hear about that in a minute. But he wasn't like the next in charge, but everybody liked him the best. So he became the new captain. Which was probably one of the best hiring decisions of the 17th century. His first order of business as the new captain was to rename the ship as the Fancy, which is stupid.
That's not bad.
But I don't like it.
I like it. It makes me think there's like fancy little shoes on the bottom of the boat.
Well, it would be fun for the victims because they'd be like, oh, no, here comes a pirate. Oh, no, that ship's fancy.
Oh,
and then it
the fancy.
Blows you out of the water.
It's the Fancy, sailed by Clancy.
But his second order of business was to fuck off with the privateering racket and enter straight into the piracy racket. Fuck it. We're very successful. We're good at this. Let's just make as much money as we can.
That's really amazing. Like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, but when you pull off these mutinies, how you simultaneously, like, convince everybody to kill the fucking captain, and not only that, but enter into a life of crime.
Well, but you got to figure once you've mutinied, that was a capital offense. So what have you got to lose?
That's true, and that's what my guy talked about was like, like you're, in some ways you could see like them feeling like, okay, you were pushed by your boss to a certain point, and now you're like pushed into living that life now.
Yeah, if you're gonna be wanted and like hanged when you get caught, you might as well try to get rich in the meantime. So speaking of name changes, like many pirates, Henry Avery had a number of names. For starters, though, many records actually refer to him as Henry Avery with an E. Though most do use the Avery surname, there really isn't a definitive answer as to which it was. And I don't know if that's like a language thing, like a translation thing,
if
or
you're
what.
Saying hello, you called him Henry Avery.
Avery. Hey, Avery. Yeah, I like that because it saves words.
That's the only official name we know of.
Yeah. Well, he also became known as Long Ben or Long John.
I'm Long Ben.
I knew you would.
I wish I was Long Ben.
That's Long Ben. Well, it's funny because they're like, Long John's weird because his name's not John. I assume that's where like Long John Silvers and stuff comes
Long
from.
Schlong.
But they're like, the John comes from, they're like, where did John come from? And it's like, well, he was also kind of known as John Avery, but like it was just a mistake. Some people got the fucking name wrong, but John Avery's out there too. Ben, I don't know where the fuck that came from.
Ben's
but
just a cool name.
But hilariously, many academic texts point out the nickname is odd, given that by all accounts, Henry Avery was just like average in height. In fact, he wasn't like your typical pirate. The full description I got of him was that he was average in height and fat. So I'm like, he's my hero because I'm not even quite average in height. Yeah. I'm on the short side of average and fat with a jolly face. And I'm like, so it was fucking Santa Claus. Like
historians were baffled because they could swear Ben was not born until 1991.
Well, and it's funny because they all like flat out, like at least the educational texts are like, we don't get where Long came from because he wasn't tall. It's like, where could that have been referring to? I don't know. Like if I was a pirate, I would be.
Every time he tried to chart a course, he flapped his long dingus onto the table and pointed with it. It sucked. Every time we had a fucking meeting, he was like, boom.
He used his dick for like a sundial and a compass,
a baseball bat.
He was basically the only pirate to have like cruise control because he could use it to steer the ship.
Yeah, I heard it detached and worked as a telescope.
As a telescope, yeah. Anyway, Long Henry Avery adopted the Jolly Roger as his flag, as you do. He wasn't the one to invent it, but he was one of the first, like, the earliest pirates. Or not earliest, piracy has been around forever. But, like, the beginning of the age of piracy. He fell way before, like, Blackbeard and...
But he had a jolly face, so it was appropriate for him to have the Jolly Roger.
Well, they should have called it the Jolly Avery.
Well, that would have just been a flag of his dick.
Well, he had that too. That was the one that went on the front, that pointy thing that sticks out in the front of the ship.
So it's a ship with a dick on the front, fancy tap dance shoes on the bottom that you can see kicking underwater.
Kicking underwater, yeah.
This is the best pirate ship ever.
Best ship ever, yeah. It makes me really picture the ship from Black Flag, or Black Sail, whatever. Although his Jolly Roger wasn't, it was typically on a red background. They said he did use black too, but it was usually on a red background, and the skull was in profile view rather than the like head-on whatever, the head-on picture that we're mostly familiar with. That's one thing. I was way older than I probably should have been when like everybody knows, my daughter's 3 and she knows the Jolly Roger, the pirate flag. Mm-hmm. What I didn't realize is that was a general term for the pirate flag, and there was a lot of different designs.
Yeah, I learned that too.
They were all similar usually, but it's like you pointed out a couple weeks ago on your show. It's like the point was you wanted them to know you were a pirate ship. Not until you got up on them.
Yeah.
You didn't tend to just like sail into port with it up, but yeah. And you wanted it to be terrifying, so the to offset the tap dancing shoes and the penis on the front.
That would terrify me.
Well, that's true.
Imagine that ship is like picking up speed on you. Like, what are you gonna do?
It's skating on it.
The fucking thing is running on top of water like Mario. Like,
it's like those modern day cigar boats where you just it's like bouncing all the way.
Like little hands are like Naruto style held out to the side, like he's Sonic, and it's like, yeah, we're not making it to port. We're gonna die here.
Anyway, Henry sailed the Fancy to Madagascar. That was his first order of business. There he ordered the mutinied captain and any crew that hadn't supported the mutinying into a lifeboat and told him to row to shore. So he didn't actually kill the dissenters or the captain. So good for him. Along with 2 pirate sloops that he picked up along. Apparently, like, this was a thing that happened back then. You'd be sailing along as a pirate, and you'd see other pirates and be like, hey, guys, do you want to join?
Yeah.
And they were like, fuck yeah, that ship looks badass. It's got a penis on the front.
Could you not flap our fucking poop deck with your cock?
Yeah. If you knock that off, we'll join forces. And Avery said, no promises, mate. Anyway. So there's 3 ships at this point, 2 sloops and his Fancy. So after dropping off the captain in Madagascar, which was also like, you didn't kill him, but you also didn't let him go like where he'd be welcomed. You're like, I'm going to sail you to fucking Africa, and here you live here now.
Your life could really back then your life was a lot more prone to, like, you could be severely relocated.
It makes sense, because if you leave them in Spain, they instantly are aware of the fact that you just mutinied and stole the ship, so you're in pursuit. Like,
that was vindictiveness of it, though, is hilarious.
Yeah, I know, because I'd almost be like, just kill me, leave me. Although I do think Madagascar was still, like, at the time, a pretty active port. So I think that was important. He didn't necessarily want to kill the captain, and he didn't want to just like have him die on a deserted island like you always heard about it. But it was more of we're going to do this to preserve our, cover our asses, which also puts him ahead of most newly minted pirates. Like, he was relatively smart at doing what he did. Anyway, with the 2 sloops, they headed for the Indian Ocean. Which is interesting, too, because most of the pirates that I read about or know about operated in the Caribbean, and he was familiar with that area because he did work more legitimately and slightly less legitimately as a slaver and privateer in the Caribbean, so he was familiar with that, but he's like, we're going to the Indian Ocean. And even, like, before he even got to where he was going to do his piracy, he managed to capture 3 English merchant ships, and then he captured 2 Danish ships, and then a French pirate ship, which had to be fucking epic because, like, pirate-on-pirate violence is way... a lot of these merchant ships, especially in the Indian Ocean, weren't particularly, like, well... they all had guns, but they weren't these big, formidable frigates like you hear about running back and forth for Spain and France and that kind of stuff. So then he captures a pirate ship. And at one of these like ports at one of these islands down here, I think it was like Cape Verde or something, he drafts this open letter to the English in which he states that he has never wronged an English or Dutch vessel and that I never intend to do so while the ship is under my command. So that sounds like an attempt by me to insist that he's still just like a privateer, like, hey, I took the ship, but I'm still on your side. Don't worry about it.
If I were the crew, I would revolt.
Well, it probably wasn't well received by the English, given that out of the first 5 ships he captured, 3 were English and 1 was Dutch. Yeah. So, like, it was very much a bullshit letter and everybody knew it. But in his defense, if you wrote a letter that said, hey, only 80% of the ships I've harmed have been English or Dutch, and I intend to keep that percentage in the future, like, at that point, you might as well not write a letter. So
this guy's navigating board meetings already. Like,
pretty much
ahead of his time. It's like, the fiscal numbers, these are what we call acceptable losses.
Yeah. So he would, though his pirate career was still young, he was apparently very good at it, and within it would only, his career, like many pirates, would only last like 2 years, which had to be an eternity at sea, but it wasn't a long career. But he managed to, like, during that time, amass a fleet of 6 to 7 like pirate ships that he used to terrorize the much more formidable but also much more lucrative ships of the Mughal Empire of India, which I didn't know who they were either, because I'm not a particularly good historian. Turns out they were about the biggest empire in the world at the time. Although the British and Spanish whatever were, waltzing in and taking over all these places, the Mughal Empire was very rich and prosperous. But Avery's career would come to an end when he decided to target the Ganji Sawai, I'm sure I said that wrong, which was a treasure ship owned by the literal richest man on the planet, Emperor Aurangzeb. It's Aurangzeb, I think.
I imagine he couldn't say it either, and if you can't say it, don't go after it.
That's right. Yeah, well, he was ambitious. He's like, if we're going to fucking do this shit, let's go after a ship that's worth it. This ship was part of an annual convoy between India and the Holy Land, and each year it carried back an unimaginable amount of treasure, which is not true. It was imaginable because they've got it valued in today's currency at more than, like, I think it was a couple $100 million worth of gold, or not just gold, but treasure on this one ship. But because this guy, Aurangzeb, whatever, isn't stupid like me, and doesn't, who doesn't look up how to pronounce stuff ahead of time, it not only carried a buttload of treasure, but it also carried a ton of cannons and traveled as part of a convoy of 7 ships, which were all also heavily armed. So it wasn't like he was just like, I'm an idiot with my money. Like, this was the, like, floating Fort Knox of the time. But fortunately for Avery, he was as skilled and as he was ambitious, and also very lucky, as one account said that while they waited anchored in ambush, they had found some islands somewhere where they could, like, harbor an anchor and not be seen, where they knew the convoy would be passing. So they did that, but these ships that they were trying to ambush were very, like, swift and silent, and 6 of the 7 ships slipped past before anybody even fucking noticed. So they saw the very last ship, which happened to be the one they wanted, so that worked out. And they were able to catch up to the pursuit. Actually lasted days, but because the other ship was also a very high-tech ship, but like I said, the Fancy was one of the fastest ships on the sea, if not the fastest, and it eventually caught up to them. And what they wanted was not, it wasn't like, hey, I wonder what these guys are coming after. It's like, well, fuck, there's a pirate ship coming after us. But he managed to take the ship and the treasure, which was, and I think still is, you Google it, it's not my job as the host of the show, the largest pirate score in the history of this kind of piracy. It also set off the first literal global manhunt in human history, as the French already hated Avery because he'd been, taking their ships since he was with Charles II. Spain was allied with the English, who were now pissed at Avery because he had taken some of their ships, but also completely fucked up their relations with India, which was very important. I think everybody's heard of the East India Trading Company, which was a big part of England's growth into the global super taker over that they were. Their relations between India and England were very important.
And a very good branding example of when shit goes down, you want people to think of India and not you.
Right. But basically, he had pissed off every one of the world's superpowers. As long as you ignore all of the Americas, Asia, and Eastern Europe entirely, like a lot of history does. So, you read this stuff, and they're like, he pissed off, the first manhunt, and everybody at sea was after him. It's you're forgetting Asia had a huge trade and piracy, thing going on over there. The Americas had superpower. They might not be considered, in the same whatever, but as much as we like to try to erase it, the civilizations in South America and in Central America and as soon everywhere, it wasn't like there were no other people on the planet. But to get to the point, he had a lot of very powerful countries very pissed off at him, and they were all looking for him. Especially because they knew he had hundreds of millions of dollars in treasure. So even if you didn't hate him, you want the fucking treasure. I'm sure all the pirates out at sea were like, hey, let's find this ship. And as you know, it's incredibly difficult to steal one of the most famous treasure ships and most famous treasures in the world and then just slip off into the night. Because now you got all this money and you got to do something with it, right? And that's how a lot of pirates got caught. Not Avery, though, because that's exactly what he did. Unlike almost every other pirate ever, Avery's career was short because he was very successful, and then he fucked off. Yeah, he quit. He disappeared. Nobody knows where the fuck he went or what happened to the treasure.
I feel like every criminal, robber and shit has just been bubbling their way trying to find that example.
Well, it's funny because maybe I should have done the Breaking Bad route. I think I've talked about it in the show before, but my degree's in criminal justice. One of our classes, it was called criminal technology and blah 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 something, but it was really to talk about forgery and counterfeiting and drugs and basically to make you aware of what was being done by criminal enterprises, and so you knew what was what. But anyway, part of the class talked about I never even realized that there's standard units of cocaine. When they make drugs, you make them by a barrel, a certain size. And I'm sure it's not ways and means, over there, scientific, whatever. But, generally my point is they're when you make a barrel of, I think it was cocaine. I don't know. This was 20 years ago. We'll say a barrel of cocaine. They make one batch and they're oh yeah, its street value is $2.8 million. Mm-hmm. And I'm well, why the fuck would I ever make a second batch? You sell that batch. Before anybody knew what the fuck just happened, you'd have $2.8 million, and I could turn that into more legitimate money easy. Or just fucking live off $2.8 million. Yeah. And that's what gets most criminals is that, and pirates, to get back to our actual topic today, is that they're hey, we made a bunch of money, let's keep making a bunch of money, and it works until it doesn't.
I wonder, how much of that is a psychological thing, though, where... Because you're right, you should just, take the money and, you and me, in our positions in life, we would totally be yeah, $2 million, you'll never see me again. But I'm wondering, you look at all these, dealers and shit, and how that's never enough. Well, and it is a, I don't know the
like actual term for it, but it is a psychology thing. Humans are very bad about this, and do it to different extents. Where you're like, if you make $30,000 a year, you think I just made $60,000 a year, I'd be set.
I mean, it's the reason why our economy is
fucked.
Is fucked. It's broken. It's evil, and it's because it's all motivated by I want to see the fucking line graph go up all the time, even though if it's like plateaued, that plateau you're still making $40 billion. Well, yeah. Well, I posted something on Blue Sky, and it says a pet one of mine because it's affecting me, because one of the companies I write insurance for is Nationwide, and they basically out of the blue came out and were like, oh yeah, we're not writing new business for the rest of the year. And their excuse is, well, with all the claims, this will fix profitability. They posted a $57 billion profit last year. Yeah.
And that's after what they paid out for claims. That's not, $57 billion minus. But the thing is exactly what you fucking said. Now the investors want them to make $64 billion this year. And the only way to do that is to fuck other people over.
Yeah. Like our economy is so backwards because it's like, if you're stable, you're failing.
And which is ludicrous to most of us, because if you tell me I have a company that made $57 billion, I'd say, wow, that's really fucking good.
Yeah.
Again, actually, I'd say
you will never see me again.
Right. And Avery was smart because that's exactly what he did. It's like, I've got more money than I could possibly spend, and I'm good. Like if I keep pressing my luck,
but there's something about it. What I was thinking of as you're talking about it, like I'm thinking about like Pablo Escobar and shit. And Pablo Escobar made enough money for him and like probably the next 5 generations of his family to live off of pretty early in his career, but it wasn't enough. And I'm wondering where it crosses that line where at first you're trying to make money and then you're like, actually, I need to own every fucking hippo in the world. And a lot of it's a ego status thing. I mean, it's purely that. And it's like, but when did when did your business turn into like complete like narcissistic madness?
And I don't know, maybe there's a chance that if you put me in a situation like that, I would do that. I don't think so. Because I'm not particularly driven by money now. I mean, if you tell me I'll give you $50 to do this thing, but you don't want to do it, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't really need $50 that bad.
I would crumble. I would become corrupt as shit.
Yeah.
I would be, they would write plays about me. And it would end with me probably getting like a shotgun to the back like Scarface.
Yeah.
All because
from a hippo.
All because I invented like a toilet that helps you crap better or something dumb.
Oh God, yeah, that's not dumb. I'd turn to a life of crime to make money to buy a toilet that helps me like crap better.
Yeah, then like I would take it the next step, like I would become a Batman villain.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe most of us would. Who knows? I'll never be in that position, so
I'll never find out. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no good way to crap. So, sorry, folks.
So anyway, yeah, he called it quits and just disappeared. There's a number of theories as to what happened to him. One of the most prevalent is that he eventually made his way back to England, excuse me, where he died drunk and penniless in relative anonymity.
That sounds like bullshit.
But yeah, from what I could tell, and again, we do very limited research here, there's not a ton to back that up. I think that's more because it's like the poetic, like, it makes it
a parent trying to discourage their kid from bad behavior, so they say.
Well, and even if it's not like the moral, like a moral tale, it's like that's the most like kind of like soap opera-y twist. Like, and guess what? He still didn't get, find happiness.
That is something, though. I mean, I do like that in terms of like my fiction, where
yeah, sure, that's what I mean. It's a good.
So like that,
good, like if it was a novel, that would be a very literary ending.
So that Black Sails show is technically a prequel to Treasure Island, the classic pirate book, and in that book, Long John Silver is like he was a former pirate, and he was like the close friend of the guy whose treasure everybody's going after in that book. In the show, him and the captain, by the end, they have like a pretty big argument, because Long John Silver at that point is kind of doing what you're talking about with Henry Avery, where he's like, I just want this to be over. I just want out. I fell in love, and I'm going to go, have my happy life with her, and I'm not going to do the pirate shit anymore. And the other guy is like, you say you don't give a shit now, you will care. And like, in some time from now, you are going to wish that you stuck by me on this, because it's bigger than everything you're dreaming about right now. But it's going to be the one thing that you're going to regret. And then in the book, he does regret it. As evidence, if you ever read Treasure Island, Long John Silver's back at it trying to find the treasure and undo his fuck up.
Because it turned out the woman he thought he loved was a literal pig, like a farm animal pig. And he's like, oh, crap. I was just really drunk when I met her.
No, in the book, he's still with her, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
Like, and it's an interesting... Like, I like that in terms of fiction, where a character gets exactly what they want, and then you realize, like, oh, that's it. That's all.
Yeah, and I think that would be the thinking behind this is either that he squandered it all, or it got stolen, or lost at sea, or just he realized, I have this treasure and no way to cash it.
Yeah.
And he ends up dying drunk and penniless. I don't think that's what happened,
no,
because I don't want that to be what happened.
No, I like that in terms of fiction, but in the real world, he was probably fine.
So we're throwing that one out, not based on any actual like history or studying, because I didn't do that.
No,
just
I
don't
want
want
he's
that.
Friend of the show.
Yeah. Another theory says he returned to Ireland because he had relatives there and lived the rest of his days like a king. I'll take that. Ireland's nice.
Ireland would have talked about him though.
Yeah, that's the thing. In reality, what actually happened is that Nathan Drake found his ship in Uncharted 4, because that was the big like series. That's what it was leading to. Yeah. Spoiler, if you haven't played Uncharted 4. And then something happened to it. I don't remember. I really liked the game, but I was struggling to remember exactly how it ended. I think it was in like a cave or something, and it collapsed.
That is a good game. Well, it ends with like you fighting on the pirate ship.
Right, and then doesn't like the whole cave system like collapse in on it, and he barely escapes?
Probably that's been,
or it blows up or something.
I assume that's how fucking every Uncharted ends.
It's a very diehard action movie ending where the bad guy goes down with the treasure. It can't be whatever, and Nathan Drake's like, you know what? I'm happy.
I didn't save anything from this adventure, but God, I love my family now. Like,
right?
That's.
Although they kind of were hinting at what you just said too, where he's on the beach at the end, and it's kind of like, "Fuck, I miss treasure hunting."
Well, like I guess that is kind of the plot of that game, though, is because most of it is like you need to fucking be a husband and shit, but it's like, but my bad influence brother's here, and there's all these excuses, but really, I just want to find pirate treasure.
Yeah, like he's almost Indiana Jones, but he isn't in it just for like belongs in a museum. It's like, no, I like the adventure and the history really drives Nathan Drake, but so does getting the fucking treasure. Like, and I get it because
that is something I can't stand about those games and all those like action adventure movies and shit. Like, it was fine when Indiana Jones did it because they put in some fucking MacGuffin rule that you can't, there's a reason why you couldn't take those treasures. But if I was Nathan Drake, I would just be pocketing coins and shit. Like, dude, something.
Well, I feel like he was trying to, but every time he'd like start to get coins, like
700 mercenaries would show up.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then the treasure would blow up or sink or something, and he'd be like, well, fuck, we can't get that treasure, but let's go over to this other treasure. Yeah. Again, I like the game. Well, I hated I absolutely loathe the first one. I tweeted about it last year when I played it, and after I got done playing it, which I played after 4, I was sitting there like, how the fuck did this game get sequels? Like, how did enough people? It was a bad game.
On our old video game show, we talked about Uncharted 2 a lot, and now I personally thought that game was really overrated. But my biggest problem with that whole series is just how long those games are, and that's why Lost Legacy is the best one, because it's bite-sized, and the characters are good.
I like Nathan Drake. That was the one thing with the characters in Lost Legacy are very good too.
I like Sully.
Yeah,
I can't say I like Nathan Drake because he just irritates the shit out of me.
I don't know. He gives me Nathan Fillion vibes, which it gives a lot of people that because everybody said that's who should have played him in the movie.
Yeah.
Which I agree it should not have been Tom Holland. But
yeah,
whatever.
like that's fair. Tom Holland's a good actor, but
he didn't fit the.
No, like.
Although I say that I haven't watched it.
He needs to do like a World War II movie.
Yeah.
And then that's how in acting that's how you transform. So you'll look like a high schooler forever until you do some Saving Private Ryan ripoff bullshit, and that'll age you somehow like 20 years, and then you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Right. Well, yeah. And I get he's got that like the childlike quipping, attitude, like annoying. Annoying's the wrong word because I don't think he's annoying, but
I think that writing's annoying.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think he, as an actor, could fit the writing. He just didn't fit the. And I say that again. I haven't watched it, and I'm the kind of person too. And everybody's like, "That movie was terrible," and I'll watch it. Be like, I actually liked it. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll watch it. But
I'll never. Watch
everything
it.
I've seen did not look good. Every single clip, I'm like, eh.
I just
anyway,
and having like Mark Wahlberg as Sully is like.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It's like, well, okay, you might have flubbed. Maybe he could pull this off, but I don't see it. And then and also the other worst possible actor, like a guy I like Mark Wahlberg. He is not Sully. What doesn't make sense is Uncharted was written as a kind of a riff on these adventure movies, so the characters are the most generic. They're the easiest ones to find actors that fit because
it's just really funny when you're like. Watching video game movies still get made, and it's like every movie that's been made since like 2000 should be better than the pretty fucking terrible original Mortal Kombat movie, but you watch it, it's like it's not like
no.
At least that shit had Goro,
but it's this combination of them being like we have to like overly complicate because video game plots typically are not unless it's a Kojima game. Or Final Fantasy.
I dare a fucking studio try to make an authentic Metal Gear Solid movie. You will go insane. You will be writing the lale lule lo on the wall in your own shit. Like you.
So, and then they do stuff like with Uncharted. It's like, well, but these are the hot names right now. We need those. It's like, no, you need. I don't know. I don't get it. Every now and then, though, like I don't know if you watched the new Mortal Kombat movie.
I did.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it. It was stupid.
It was really dumb, but like it should.
But
be.
in a way that it was trying to be right, and it's Mortal Kombat. You don't make a non-dumb Mortal Kombat movie.
Totally.
So I loved it. I thought it was one of the better video game to movie endeavors in recent history.
It kind of felt like I don't really need like an original character. Well, I'm just trying to protect my family. Like I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
You could just set up a bunch of random fights. So I'd probably be okay with it.
I loved the unapologetic and not even trying to be subtle about like the injecting the like get over here's and finish him. Like they're like, fuck it, we're gonna make this an action movie and then we're just gonna throw this in because it's Mortal Kombat. And I'm like, yes, do that.
The one thing they didn't do the original Mortal Kombat theme song.
I know,
which is
one of the best songs ever written.
To be fair, when we're saying it's better than a lot of movies, that song is 90% why.
Yeah. So, But anyway, this isn't the video game movie podcast. It's not that because it doesn't have a theme.
It's over, is what this is. This episode's over. Yeah.
Well, that's what the last thing that was interesting to me is with Avery. Like, we like pirates. I liked Uncharted. And when I saw the show that like actually talked about Avery's like career and how he like disappeared with the treasure, I'm like, how have I not heard this story? Well, I probably heard it and not retained it. Like he doesn't get like the Blackbeard and the Captain Kit, all the like for whatever reason. And he was literally like the only one. He stole the most treasure and got to like keep it. No. And he actually, they think he was a big inspiration for the age of piracy because other pirates were like, hey, this fucking works. And then for them, it didn't. I think that just sort of comes down to like my running theory about what stories grip people and which don't. Is like that's like, hey, I'm not trying to sell Avery short, but like, that to me, his story is kind of more trivia, where it's hey, did you know this guy did this shit? But those like pirate stories that capture our attention are the ones where like there's conflict or some sort of tragedy. They give some like big speech or smart ass remark before they get hanged, or they go down in a blaze of glory at sea.
Yeah. Or even if they don't, like we find out they, just got some liquid shits and died on an island somewhere. Like,
But and that's kind of how I ended my notes. I said the point is the whole story is that nobody knows what actually happened to him or the treasure, which makes this one of your favorite kind of stories, one with no particular ending.
Well, it's interesting in this context though, because it's like, it's not a bad story. It's just kind of, it's one of those things where he kind of got away with it. And
yeah, and it's interesting too though, because it's one of the ones, because I love, one of my guilty pleasures are these shows where these people are like traipsing all over the globe, spending millions of dollars looking for treasures, legendary treasures that probably don't exist.
Yeah.
They either never existed, or if they did, they're long gone. And that's what I always say. I'm like, if you have this treasure and they're like, oh, and they buried it, it's like, well, then they would have come back, or somebody they would have had to help, but somebody would have come back. And then there's a story like this where like this treasure's fucking somewhere. I mean, it's never resurfaced, and there's pieces of it that are very like identifiable.
It's just kind of like this type of story is, if you are Henry Avery, this is exactly how you want it to end.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
If you're on the outside, but it just doesn't.
But if you're anybody that's not Henry Avery or his immediate family,
we just wasted an hour of your life. No.
Right.
But no, it's more just like, it's just a big question mark.
Yeah. Which, as a human, is not satisfying.
Yeah.
Unless you have the means to, if I could just uproot my life right now and go searching for Avery's treasure, then I'd be more obsessed with the story. But I don't have the means to do that. So unless he buried it in central Ohio, I'm shit out of luck.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't that be a fucking awesome ending to the story? Like, Henry Avery's treasure found in Columbus. It would be like, what the fuck?
I guess that is a tragedy. Never mind.
My toilet was clogged, and I started digging it up to try to get out the root, and here's this big fucking pirate treasure. And the skeleton flicking me off with a smile.
Fucking plumber comes out of, like, your basement with, like, a fucking pirate hat on, and like, you won't believe what I found down there, sir. Gold. God, wouldn't
that be nice? Because plumbing problems never end with you becoming rich. They're quite the opposite.
Actually, I would be terrified. The fucking plumber would probably just beat you with a wrench and take it.
That's true.
So, yeah, that's the show this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with it. I washed my hands of it. Actually, I have to edit it. Fuck.
I'm pretty exhausted after the hour of work I put into the note, and then an hour of rehashing that work on air. Thanks for listening, or not, just having us on while you play video games or jack off. Yeah. I don't know what you're doing back there. I don't want to know. sickos.
Right into Steve if you're jacking off. I'm curious. All right. See you next week.
Bye-bye.